In this video, I want to explain the different features that you could build into partition walls for your basement to reduce sound transmission. Some of the principles here are similar to what I've explained for soundproofing the ceiling of the basement, the first floor of your house, but there are some differences too. So this is a partition wall, and the first thing I want you to notice is how the studs here, the wall studs, are staggered. So the bottom plate is a 2x6, that's what you see here, and the bottom plate, but the individual studs are 2x4s, and they're staggered. So one's on this side of the 2x6, one's on this side, one's on this side, one's on this side. It goes back and forth, and the idea is that it eliminates any solid connection from one side of the wall to the other. And it makes quite a difference. I've built this sort of wall in my own home, and it really does work to stagger the studs. That is, of course, only part of the equation, though. There are other things that you can do. One of them is to use resilient channel, which is what you see here. This is the same sort of stuff that could be used to boost the sound resistance of the ceiling in your basement, of the first floor frame of your house. And it works by minimizing the connection between the drywall and the wall studs. There's actually very little contact because the drywall doesn't fasten to the studs with any sorts of screws. You can see here the resilient channel is screwed directly to the studs, and then the drywall will be screwed to the resilient channel. It's designed so that you don't have to pre-drill into that metal or anything. The drywall screw will actually bore its way through and grip into that metal and hold the drywall on. Now, as with the floor frame, the ceiling of the basement that I've explained in another video, in the same way that adding a second layer there will help with the wall, the same thing's going on here. There's one layer of drywall. I recommend 5/8 inch thick fire code drywall. It's thicker, has more sound resistance than 1/2 inch drywall, and it's also stronger too. The second layer fastened on with screws, just like you normally would, but then there's a layer of green glue here, which is a proprietary product. It's a unique product, and it's designed specifically for applications like this. So it greatly increases the sound resistance of an assembly involving two pieces of drywall. Another thing you should understand is how lead sheeting is actually a very powerful soundproofing material. So on this face of the wall we have two pieces of drywall, just on the other, like on the other face, but instead of the green glue there is some lead sheeting here. This is thin, flexible lead that comes on a roll. It's especially made for this sort of thing. There are different suppliers around that sell it. But interestingly enough, this thin layer of lead, which is flexible, it's kind of like lead foil, really, it has the sound blocking capabilities of 6 inches of concrete. So it adds an awful lot of sound resistance to the wall. Of course, in order for that to be effective, there can't be gaps around the walls or things like that. And if there's going to be a doorway, like there might be here, well, the sound's going to come through underneath the door and around the sides and things like that. So in order for the lead or any of these other features to work, the wall does need to be continuous, and it needs to be sealed so there's no gaps around it, because sound will find the tiniest little opening to get through. But it's definitely worth considering, especially if you want to have a very soundproof wall. And lead is a little known material that can help you do that. Now, just one last thing before I finish up. This is a double stud here, in a sense. They're small. The idea is that the wood is not continuous all the way through. We couldn't stagger it here because it's right on the end of a wall. So breaking up the studs in two halves like this makes sense. Now, it's not a big deal, though, because in all likelihood there's going to be a doorway here, and that will let a fair amount of sound through, both around the door and through the door. Doors aren't all that thick, and they don't have all these features built into them, but this is generally considered the ultimate way of doing the end of a wall where you can't stagger the studs.